We had blowouts, disgusting performances, big performances, bounce backs, stinkers. It's all here on Wednesday. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I've got spirits in my head, and they won't go. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms. Checking out Locked On Daily as well, LockedOnDaily.com, for the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. Okay, now, again, I did tweet out some stuff earlier today about not being able to be or to do the early show, the waiver wire show. Ended up being able to do that. This one's going to be cut a little bit short, this recap show. There are 6 games on, 5 early ones and then 1 late one. I'm not going to be recapping the Wolves and Clippers games because, well, it's only one game. Again, because I've got some other personal stuff, family stuff to do this afternoon. So this will just be a little bit of a shorter recap show. If anything major happens there, yeah, sure. Maybe I'll put out a little in-car video or something like that, but probably won't. So that's what we're here, and that's what we're going to do. All right. So like I said, we're here to recap the action. We're talking Wednesday. There were 6 games on. We're going to talk about the 5 of them here. Let's just get in early on, though, and just cover off a little bit of news that we do need to get to that I didn't talk about in the preview show earlier today, because the Warriors dropped a few little injury nuggets there for us. We know that Anthony Davis is out. Anthony Davis, that's something else I'm reading. Draymond Green is out. Steph Curry is out as well for the game tomorrow against the Rockets. Andrew Wiggins popped up as questionable, and on the other side, Fred VanVleet popped up as questionable, and Tari Eason is dealing with a concussion, and he is out. So all that stuff came out of nowhere. That was not reported whatsoever. So no Steph, no Dre, no Eason, maybe no Wiggins, maybe no VanVleet for that game. Weird. What we're going to get there is going to get a lot more of Kevon Looney, a lot more of John Kuminga, a lot more of Brandon Podziemski. You might even be getting someone like a Moses Moody stepping up because no Steph is important there. So Podziemski's going to have to do a lot of point guard stuff. You'll get some, or for you, all you double Onyx legends, you might get some Pat Spencer. You might. Double Onyx, Platinum, Diamond, Titanium guys. I know you've probably already picked Pat Spencer up, but he might be able to get you 15 or so minutes on that in that second unit. Just because the point guards are non-existent. There's nobody there. So Gary Payton's not going to do that. I don't think Moses Moody's not going to do it. Kyle Anderson will do it a little bit. But just keep an eye there on old mate Pat Spencer, Cam Spencer's brother. Cam Spencer, by the way, for the Grizzlies, I think he dropped 51 in the G League the other day. So that's all happening. And Wembanyama's out too, which I did talk about in the preview show, but no Wemby. So that's the first of a back-to-back. So we'll see if it's just a precautionary thing with his back issue. But Zach Collins, Charlie Bassey, both of those guys become really interesting streams. We also got the update on Terrence Mann with the broken finger. He's having surgery on that. That's at least 3 weeks. And we said that if it was one of those lower down finger things and he doesn't need surgery, it's a 4-week thing. So that's 4 weeks. That's the rest of this calendar year. So January, he's going to be back. We saw, we're going to get an example of that today. But in today's game with the Clippers, there's no Powell. And there's no Kevin Porter, I believe, playing in that game as well. So it's not going to be a full representation. Or is Porter back? No, Porter's out. So there's no Porter, no Man, and no Powell in that game. But Powell and Porter are going to be back very soon. So it's not going to be a full representation. But we'll keep an eye on my man Jordan Miller as an option there. But I'm just going to guess with Man out, you get Miller just taking those 20 minutes or so with Porter and Coffey doing little bits and pieces. And nobody really becomes a 12-team league option in that situation would be my guess. All right, should we get in and talk about the games? I did the waiver wire most addeds earlier on in the day. Let's just get in here to talk about these games. The first one of those games was the Boston Celtics taking on the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, it was a back-to-back, so in good news there, Cade Cunningham was playing in the back-to-back. They lose at 130 to 120, but Cade played 34 minutes on the back-to-back. He had 27, 9, and 14 with elite field goals. He's still not doing as much as I'd like from the line in terms of getting there enough, but 2 of 2 is fine and 3 threes. That's a very, very big performance. And this man had been struggling, not Kate, but the next guy, the thick Hogsman, Tobias Harris, and he's put together 2 absolute monsters. 27 with 6 threes, 2 steals, and a block. I thought we'd be getting more, not necessarily games like this, but games where he would do things more with usage in this situation in Detroit versus where he was in Philly. And it hasn't been that way until now. I don't know if this kickstarts what Tobias Harris is going to do for the rest of the season, but this is more in line with how my expectations were for Toby. We'll see what happens. Leaky Beasley stunk yesterday and was back in business. 23 with 6 threes and 2 steals. That's great. He played 33 minutes. Cool. That's okay. We know that the confidence you should have in him is very, very low, but I think there's one thing we know, that he is significantly better than Tim Hardaway. Not that that's saying a lot. Why they keep starting Tim Hardaway, I'll never know. But Beasley is at least streamable if you want to hold. I get it, but I also don't think you necessarily need to. Jaden Ivey is in a real slump at the moment. 11, 2, and 2. No volume, no counters, nothing really going on there. He just did not play well at all in this game, and it's been a couple of games like that I would hold, especially in points leagues. But categories, if I'm in a 10-teamer, he is on the fringe. I don't really think there's any or much debate really about that at all. What else is going on with this team? Oh yeah, how about the passport legend Jalen Duren, who had 5 points? He shot 20% from the field and 50% from the line. He did have 2 assists and 5 rebounds, but it has been an absolute disaster class from him this season. If I'm in a 10-team league, and I'm not, but if I was, and it's a 10-team points league, he's jackable.
Get that garbage out of here.
Clearly, there's not enough upside in the, and that's sometimes the decision we've got to make. What is the upside if this gets turned around for this player? Is Jalen Duren a top 40 points league guy? No. Top 80? Maybe. But that seems so far away anyway. So I don't think that you need to be holding in those points formats. Category leagues, it's a little bit more debatable, but he's been bad all season. And if you wanted to move on, I totally get that. Isaiah Stewart didn't do much, 2 and 2 with a steal and a block as a replacement, and Tim Hardaway also had 2 points. Just a lot of garbage on this team that's not really doing anything. It was a solid game from Marcus Sassi at 12 points in his 19 minutes. That was with Asar Thompson out. We don't need to roster Asar Thompson. We don't need to roster Marcus Sassi either. I'm pretty certain about that, or at least at this point. If we look now at the Boston Celtics side of this equation, they did make changes. Porzingis returned, but Tatum rested. I said on the other show the other day that I'm going to guarantee you close as I can to 100% that Tatum is going to sit one of the next 3 games. It was this one. They got a back-to-back at the end of the week as well. Maybe he sits that one. I'm not sure. But he was out. Porzingis started. Al Horford came back in, and he started. Luke Cornett went back to the bench. And Sam Hauser returned, and that meant Jordan Walsh went to the bench. There was still no Drew Holiday here, and of course no Tatum. Porzingis, 29 minutes, 26 and 9, 3 threes and 2 blocks. The speed that this man got back to full minutes is incredible. When I was talking to Celtics people in the offseason, they're like, okay, January, and then they won't push him to full minutes until around the end of January All-Star. No, what are we talking about? It's what day is it? The bloody 4th of December, and he's playing 30 minutes a night already. All right, that's unbelievable. A ridiculous recovery. Jaylen Brown cooked in this one too. 28, 6 and 9 with 3 steals. Maximum Derek White, I guess his foot is fine. He had 2 steals and 2 blocks with 11 assists. And even Luke Cornett played 21 minutes. So he got the nod over Nemesh Cater. The Pastel Donata was a DMP. And Cornett did his thing. Cornett has put up some big numbers lately. 2 steals and 2 blocks here with 9 and 8. And maybe he's the guy we look at because there is a back-to-back coming up. I don't know whether it's going to be one of those scenarios where they rest Porzingis and Horford together. And that would obviously elevate Cornett. But I think you probably want them to alternate the rest so that Cornett can do 21 and 21. If that's what they do. But we've seen it with Sneaky Joe Mazzulla. Tillman might have a crack. Cater might have a crack. It's a little bit all over the place. And it's going to be risky streaming guys like that. 14 points for Al Horford. He is solid enough when he has to start like this. When he's a bench player, he's not a fantasy guy. But when he starts, he is. And Peyton Pritchard. 34 minutes for him, 19 and 5 with 5 threes, just continuing the good times in another start. And speaking of another start, Sam Hauser, 20 points and 5 threes. This is this team with so many of these really, really solid players that there are so many options here when they need to rest guys that players can just step up. Pritchard is a 12-team guy. Hauser's not. It's probably a more 14-16, same as Cornett. But yeah, in this short term, and this is really key. It's why we started doing the 5s and 2s in the daily preview shows, because the Celtics had a 5-game and 7-night stretch, meaning they were going to rest guys. So loading up on, and the Cornett one's hard to predict, but Hauser, Even though he has set a game, he's been great. And Pritchard's been great. And all these guys get this short-term boost because of the way they condense that schedule in. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the other games from the day as well. But today's episode is brought to you by Chime. The holiday season is here, and that means finances. You're going to be watching what's going on. How do you keep that financial control going? Well, Chime is a great way to take control of your finances. It is a financial technology company that also has a sense of community, old Chime does. It enables you to have these temporary increased overdraft limits by getting boosts from your friends. Yes, that is how it works. You can find out more about it at chime.com/NBA, but it helps you with fee-free overdraft up to $200. You can get spotted on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals, and you get that ability to withdraw from 50,000 plus fee-free ATMs. So enjoy the holidays while keeping your financial goals on track with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That is chime.com/NBA. Chime, it feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank North America or Stride Bank North America. Members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Direct deposit timing depends on submission of payment file. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs and for OTC withdrawals. All right. That's the first game. Done, dusted, in the books. Let's go to the next game up for us to take a squiz at. We're talking Indiana Pacers and Brooklyn Nets. In the end, it was the Nets who get the victory. They were up bigger in this one, and then the Pacers did start to claw back. The Pacers started Quentin Jackson with Andrew Nembhard resting on the second half of the back-to-back, but in the second half, it wasn't Quentin Jackson. Oh, no. It was the dildo. Johnny Furphy was in there and starting, and this was very clearly, I would say, Furphy's best game. We'll just start with Furf because he played 25 minutes. He had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 threes. Now, you know that I was probably outrageously high on Furphy because, again, I hate the draft class. I don't like the quality of the players in this draft as a general rule. Yes, there are individual things that I like, right? But I had Furphy as maybe a lottery guy, definitely a top 20 player, and he went in the second round. And I didn't really understand it. I don't know that that's going to be a good take or not. I've got no idea. We'll find that out in a few years' time. But I'm very encouraged by what I saw from Furphy. I wouldn't grab him, but there is interesting stuff here considering, look, I don't think that Quentin Jackson's him at all. He played 8 minutes and didn't come back. So if I'm in the old double onyx, diamond, titanium, platinum leagues, maybe Furphy's worth the look. Maybe. I hope he is, but I'm not sure. Really slow start by Tyrese Halliburton, but he ended up with 37 minutes, 17, 3 and 8, 2 steals and 2 blocks. And if you cried about it at the start of the game, well, I guess some of your tears might have been a little bit nicer by the end of that. Because it's not great, don't get me wrong, but it is better. Turner had 11 and 7 with 4 blocks and 4 assists. And Obi Toppin also got some extra minutes. 24 minutes for Toppin. He had 13 and 5 with 2 steals and a block, which is fine, but it's very hard to have any sort of faith in him. With the absence of Nembhard, we got more Timothy John McConnell. He had 14, 2 and 2. And tell you what's weird with McConnell, his assist numbers are very much down this season. That's something to just keep an eye on. Well, Ben Mathurin, it's a lean patch here from Mathurin. I guess there was a general consensus that Mathurin may have figured it out and was really breaking out, but maybe not. Outside the top 120 over the last 2 weeks, he got 8 points here with 4 rebounds. Shot horribly. Didn't even get to the line. We're holding him for now, but I don't think the book is fully closed on, yes, Mathurin is a rest of season guarantee guy. I don't think that is necessarily going to happen. I think we're fairly good with Jarris Walker, though. He had 1 point in 14 minutes, and he looks pretty terrible at the moment. On to the Nets, because there, as we have seen over the last, whatever it is, week or so, there have been weirdness things happening with this Nets team. They moved or made a change in their starting lineup because Cam Johnson returned. That meant Tyrese Martin moved to the bench. Let's just talk about Johnson because this man continues to just put up ridiculous numbers, and I would be very interested in selling off. 26 and 7 with 7 threes, 2 steals and a block. His volume is way up while Cam Thomas is out, and so you know that. You can't do this when Thomas returns and be like, well, now Thomas is gone. Should I sell on Cam Johnson? You've got to take a hit. As my voice takes a hit. You've got to take a hit in the short term. That is how you can pull off, giggity, any sort of sell high, buy low. You've got to be like, do this and let that person cook with Johnson for a week or two. And then when we hit the January the 10th and then he's doing less or maybe he's hurt or he's traded or whatever, then the value comes back to you. But you got to take a hit somewhere usually. Ben Simmons. What a Ben Simmons this is. 7 points in 21 minutes, but 7 boards, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Whenever I'm running shows like my waiver wire shows, and then I'm going in there and I go to do things like put out must roster guys, the name that always seems to pop up is old mate Ben Simmons. Like, I don't really think I want to put him as a must roster player. But while he is playing, and for certain people in category leagues, this all makes a lot of sense. So consider that, look at what it means for your team, but go for it. We knew that there was going to be a drop-off from Dennis Schroeder. This is obviously terrible. 4 points on 18%. That stinks. It's terrible. All right, we still keep holding him, though, and it's not going to be that bad. And we actually got big minutes from Jalen Wilson, finally. The volleyball had 11 points in 36% shooting. He had 3 assists and 2 steals, and that's just more streamable stuff. Impressed with Day'Ron Sharpe. Him and Ben Simmons had a very good connection going, and Sharpe actually hit a 3-2, so just watch that. He started doing that a little bit at the end of last season. Day'Ron had 7 and 6 here, while Claxton had 16 and 8, and it was just a better night for a lot of these Nets guys. Keon Johnson did start again. He didn't really do much there. It was Shake Milton who provided value off the bench. 15, 3, and 4 for Shake with 2 steals. But again, look at the game logs. They're all over the place, and I think we're going to have Milton and Johnson and Zoe Williams if he returns, and my mate Jackie Chway, and just random blokes like that popping off. Not enough to get super excited about considering them must-grab players or anything along those lines. I know everything feels bigger and gets blown out of proportion more when it's the Lakers, but man, there's something going on. I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk about that Lakers and Heat game very, very soon. Stay tuned, it's coming up. But in the meantime, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Start this season and get ready to tackle all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers, if you go in there and bet $5, you can win $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So in the middle of the game, if you get a hunch, you can just check out all the latest stats, all the live play-by-play, everything that you need to do that stuff, the live betting on the NFL. It's there. It's so easy to do over on FanDuel. So go and join at FanDuel.com today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, so let's talk about the Lakers and the Heat. Both of these teams have had incredibly compressed schedules, basically playing almost every day over the last 8 to 10 days. But, one team here was able to push through that a little bit more. The other team did not. And the other team that did not is the Lakers. They trotted out the same starting lineup. There was no Austin Reeves. And I know, the score looks bad, 134-93, but it was just worse. It was worse than that. They got cooked. It was some of the most embarrassing stuff you'll ever see, and it was a situation where I don't know what the problem is, but JJ Redick said this. He says he's going to meet with everybody to try and figure out, and certain players individually, whatever that means, to prevent the group from splintering further. Okay, there's a lot to take out of that phrase. We meet with the coaching staff, cool, you do that. The team, no worries. Certain players individually, who are the players? What's going on? Is it LeBron? Is it AD? Is it D'Lo crying about his role? I don't know. But the fact that they say splintering further means that it's already splintered. It means that everything is not good. This is not a form slump. JJ Redick came out and told us that right now. Yeah, there's some form here, right? There's form here. That's a problem. But this is not a form issue. This is a locker room issue. Is it Redick? They don't like him as a coach. Is it LeBron? Is it Bronny? Is it that stuff? I don't know, but it is not form. I mean, it is form, obviously, but that is not the problem that is worrying me with this Lakers team. And again, this stuff does get blown out of proportion because it's the Lakers. But they literally said this. Redick came out and said further, splintering further, meaning it is splintered already. It is bad. I don't even know if I picked the Lakers to make the playoffs this season, but this is terrible. They look shocking at the moment. And this was, again, some of the more embarrassing stuff that you will see. I can't sit here and tell you what it is. And I can't single out, well, this guy needs to do this, and this is all because of this player and this player. Because I don't know that, right? And I'm sure that at some point you'll hear something or whatever it is. But there's something going on. There is something clearly going on. In saying all of that, LeBron had one of his better games. He played 29 minutes. He had 29 points with 8 assists. He hit all of his free throws. He went 67% from the field. And yeah, he'd been really struggling before that. And we'll see what happens moving forward. But that's a good game. And outside of him, not many other people had good games. Speaking of not a good game, what the hell is this from Anthony Davis? This man was cooking as a number 2, number 3 player early this season. He is outside the top 40 over the last 5 games? 8 and 7 with 5 assists on 21%. Nothing's going in. The effort isn't there. He was a minus 29 in this game. Is it a LeBron AD issue? I don't know. But that is terrible. D'Angelo Russell was fine. He played 30 minutes starting in place of Austin Reeves. 12, 1 and 4. That's not great, but his minutes and production had trended up a little bit. So I'm okay with holding on to him. I'm going to be okay with you holding on to Dalton Connect as well, but I'd also be saying,
get that garbage out of here.
Another stinker of a game from him. 2 points in 23 minutes. He did have 2 steals. He had a block and he played 23 minutes. What am I going to say about Dalton Connect? You know what I'm going to say. He needs 30 plus minutes. He needs strong usage and he needs to be well above expectations shooting-wise. That is the only way he's having fantasy value. And he's not getting the shots, he's not getting the minutes, and they're not going in. So you don't deal with that. This is tall Malik Beasley. This is, who's another? Caucasian Gary Trent. That's what we're talking about here. He's not the second coming. He's not the bloke that's bringing the title to LA because of what a theft he was in the draft. He's a 3-point shooter who got incredibly hot. If you want to hold on to him, I get it. That's okay. I wouldn't. Max Christie. I have liked Christie as a player for a little bit of time, and honestly, he's done nothing for me to actually like him. He hasn't done anything. There's just always something I go, maybe. And I got a little flash of it here. I'm not going to get excited about it. 11, 7, and 5 in 26 minutes, but there was just a little bit of something there. We also got 3 steals out of Gabe Vincent, which is probably the first positive thing anyone said about Gabe Vincent in the last 2 years. And Hachimura was okay. 14 points in 26 minutes. But Rui is just well overrepresented in 12-team leagues. He does not need to be rostered. 14 and 3 is just, it's not good enough. He's not good enough. He's not good enough to be an NBA starter. He's not good enough to be a 12-team fantasy guy. And those two things don't always go hand in hand, but they do here in this case. Just something has to break or change. Or I don't know what it is. They can't really make any trades. There's no point giving away draft picks to get better this season because they're not going to be good enough anyway. There's an internal problem here. And it was, watching that game, you look at it and go, somebody hates somebody here. Player to player, player to coach, GM to whatever. Somebody hates somebody. Somebody, I don't know. Did LeBron root one of his teammates' wife Bronny's maybe? Not his wife, his mum. The reverse Delonte. I don't know. There was supposed to be a joke about LeBron being his dad, but I screwed up the wording, but what are you going to do about it? Maybe it's funnier just in staying at that level. We'll talk about the Miami Heat side of this now because they get the win that they needed because there hasn't been smooth sailing there. Jim Butler returned. He started. That meant that Jaime Jaquez Jr. moved to the bench and had 9 points in 17 minutes. And obviously, you're jacking him.
Get that garbage out of here.
Although, maybe you're hacking him.
Get that garbage out of here.
Let's hack off Jaime Jaquez Jr. See you later. Jimmy had 17 and 9, 5 assists. That's a pretty good game, considering how much of a blowout he is. That's getting good numbers up. And Tyler Herro, in 27 minutes, the big fella dropped 9 threes with 31 points. Oh my God, this guy has unbelievably elevated his game this season. I still believe that he's not going to shoot at this level because no one does. But he's been great. And even Bam was able to hit shots. That's how you know it was a good game. 75% for Bam, 14, 10, and 7, and they just did not have to try this team. That's not fair because they obviously tried enough to cook this Lakers squad. But Haywood Highsmith got 20 or 30 minutes actually. He had 14 points with 4 threes. He is an unreliable streaming guy. While Rozier, even in the blowout, had 16 in 25 minutes. And that, guys, gives me even more confidence to...
Get that garbage out of here.
You don't have to with Rozier. I'd much rather hold him than Jaquez. But yeah, look, it's just not happening at this point. We got 12 Drew Smith minutes in this game and 19 Pale Larson minutes. Kevin Love returned and put up a ridiculous line in the minutes that Love played. 10, 4, and 5 in 15 minutes. But yeah, like I said, just an absolute ass kicking and nothing that, it's hard to get to out in front of everything there because it doesn't mean a whole lot, to be honest. Let us move on to the next game now. It is our Orlando Magic. Against the Sixers, they win at 106-102. John Isaac, 15 minutes of that game time only. You go, well, that's not good enough, is it? Well, somehow he had a Richie Beno in that time, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 threes, scored 14 points, had a locker room trip, and still was ridiculous. He is so tough to figure out what is going on. The defensive ability is clearly there. Right, he just keeps doing that. It's not for every team, and it's not for points league, so cover your ears. Earmuffs, in fact. But if you're in a category league, I think it probably is worth a look. It's not for everybody, but there's enough there that it's good. Suggsy, 37 minutes for Jalen after playing 39 yesterday. 17, 2 and 6 with 3 steals and 4 threes. And KCP, if it wasn't for the steals, it would be terrible. He had 5 of those. He had 7 points in 32 minutes. Threes and steals streaming only. Wendell Carter didn't do very much. He had 2 points in 32 minutes. Goga Badadze did probably the same amount of not very much. 21 minutes only for Goga. So, what do we do here with Goga? The fear for me when Wendell returned was that Goga's minutes were going to drop back down and he wouldn't be usable. And then the first couple of games, they shot through the roof. And I go, this is hard to make sense of. Now, Goga did suffer a fall in this game in the first half onto his back. He didn't have to go to the locker room or anything. He started the second half, but maybe that was part of it. But also, like the last couple of games from Badadze have not been super, super strong. Well, actually, that's not true. He didn't play yesterday, and now hurt his back in this one. So I am holding Goga for now. I don't think it's a long-term thing. I don't think it's going to be happening by January, but for now, we hold. Mo Wagner also was fine. 2 steals, 2 blocks, and I think he had blocks yesterday too, Wagner, which he doesn't usually do. Just get some extra bonuses in there. I haven't even talked about the other Wagner. France had 35 and 7 in his 36 minutes. That is a fantastic performance. Well, we had 30 minutes from Mr. Black. He had 10 points. He had 7 assists. He had no defensive stats. Those minutes were a little bit of a surprise. We don't normally get that from him. We haven't got that from him from a while. I wouldn't be bothered with that. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think the consistency is there enough to consider him in 10 or 12 or 14 team leagues. He is like 204th for the season. That's like incredibly deep league sort of stuff. We're going to go on now and talk about the Philadelphia 76ers side of this game. It does appear that we might be getting an appearance from Joel Embiid coming soon, but not here. No Paul George in this one as well, resting on the back-to-back. So that meant that Jared McCain started, and Jared McCain did the thing. 39 minutes, 24 points, 3 threes. And we've said this the whole way through. If he plays huge minutes and gets a lot of shots and shoots well, there's great value. Well, guess what? 39 minutes, 17 shots, 59% shooting. No one denies that he can put up these games. The problem is that if you're a 28-minute bench player, then you're not there. Is Kelly Oubre good enough? Of course he isn't. But Oubre had 15, 4 and 5 with 2 steals and 4 threes. But of course, George and Embiid will be back next game. That's not true. Embiid might be back. George will be back. So I'm not going to rush and grab a Jared McCain necessarily here. If you want him and you want to hold and believe that this talent is going to shine through, that's okay. I just don't know that it will get high enough to matter. While Drummond and Embiid are out, we are using Gershon Yabusele, 15, 7 and 4 with 2 threes. That's a much better game than yesterday, but he's not going to be someone that has that longer-term value, I don't think. We had another start from KJ Martin, 11 points there, and that meant Caleb Martin played 23, and I think we don't bother with either of those guys, even in 14s. And Maxey just continues to absolutely kill your field goals. 16 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, but 37%. The volume's there, obviously, but it's working against you because of how poorly he's shooting. I do think that, and we've seen a real big sample size of this, he cannot be a number one. We have seen this. Tyrese Maxey cannot be a number one. At this point in his career, maybe he can do it in the future, I don't know. But at this stage, he cannot do it. And every time he goes to do it, well, it's like 35% shooting. This has been last season and this season. That has been relatively clear. What this means is if you got a Paul George on your team, I think you should feel a level of confidence that George is going to have to still do a lot because Maxey can't handle that load giggity. And we saw that last game from George. So that's, I guess, one of the takeaways out of this one. Now let's go on to the 5th game of the day, which will be the last game that I am recapping here. It's the Hawks and the Bucks. Same lineup for Atlanta, and they get the rather improbable win over the Bucks, 119-104. What about old mate Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's been pretty quiet this season? This game was strong. He shot 63% and out of nowhere pulled 5 steals, which he hasn't been doing at all. But 15, 2 and 5 with 5 steals is a very strong game. I still think he feels more like a fringe 12-team guy, which is fine to have, and also fine if there is situations where your roster is stacked and you can't do it, you can't do it. And that immediately makes me go to look to see what DeAndre Hunter did. And to be fair to him, he was good as well. 20 points in 28 minutes with 3 steals, which is a huge bonus. and 6 of 6 from the line. I still don't love Hunter long term, but this is a nice hot streak, so go for it. Jalen played 40 minutes, 23 and 13, 5 assists, 53%. He has been so good. We loved a breakout opportunity for him. I had some concerns about what the real shooting was, but man, this guy is just doing so much. Well, speaking of doing so much, well, Trae Young's not, is he? There is something clearly not right with his body because the shots just will not fall. This is an unbelievable buy low chance, I think, for Trae Young. Now, I am worried about that Achilles issue for sure, but people are freaking out. He didn't have any threes or steals or blocks. He had 17, 4, and 7. Now, mind you, he's averaging about 1 million assists a game over the last couple of weeks. He just can't shoot properly. Someone asked me, and I haven't got back to them on Twitter, they said, man, why don't the Hawks just rest Trae if he's not right? He's clearly not right. I'll tell you why. Because they just fined him $100,000 for doing that. Said that, nah, you're actually lying and you should play. Remember that? Yeah. It's great. Yeah, good system. Trae needs to be better than this, and so does Zach Ricochet, although I'm not sure that he can. 12 points in 19 minutes with no other numbers there. That's a DeAndre Hunter line. He had 2 threes there. Ricochet, we don't roster him in 10s or 12s or probably 14s, honestly.
Get that garbage out of here.
Capella and Okongwu basically down the middle with the minutes, and both of them put up 12-team lines. And they will do that. 8 and 17 for Capella, steal and a block. Okongwu, 13 and 6, 2 steals and a block. Both really good games. How do you determine if they're must-roster guys? At the moment, Capella is outplaying Okongwu, but I think that you probably do want to have Capella on. Okongwu is borderline to me. You can have him, you might not. The upside for him seems lower because of the bench role, and like it's he's okay, and like that game is pretty good, but overall the balance of the work that he's done makes him more fringy than Capella, but that could switch at any point, and it's going to, I think, remain a very confusing situation. Dyson Daniels was not as good, 9 points here, but 6 assists and 3 steals. If you complain about that, I'll punch you in the face. I won't, but maybe. No, I won't. I'm a pacifist. Kobe Buffkin had 2 points in 13 minutes, and I do not know why I even bothered to read that out. Let's go on to the Milwaukee side of this. The Bucks coming on a back-to-back here. Trotted out the same starting lineup. Giannis had 31, 11, and 5, which is pretty good. But he took 26 free throw attempts. I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't watch all of this game. 26, there's almost no way anyone deserved 26 free throw attempts. Now, he absolutely brutalized your free throw percentage category this week. 15 out of 26 is horrendous. And that is just a very, very weird thing. Not that he's bad at free throws, but that many attempts is an outrageous number. Lillard continues to be good, 25, 4, and 5, and Lopez had 5 points. It is maybe a bit of the downturn for Brookie, but still got the 3 blocks, and that is sort of keeping him afloat at the moment. Bobby Portis, only 18 minutes. Now, he did have 2 steals, which for him is like a miracle. But I don't know how you could consider Bobby a must-roster player. Everyone's rostering him, so I guess no one's listening to my thoughts on it, but that's okay. I've got thoughts. You've got thoughts. I don't want people to come to this show thinking that I'm just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you opinions, and I'm going to tell you why I think them, and then you can make that decision from there. But, if you don't want to drop Bobby, don't. I would.
Get that garbage out of here.
Gaz Trent played 31. He had 11 points with 3 threes. Torian Prince hit another 2 threes. AJ Green hit another 2 threes, and that's what you do with these guys. Greeny took 11 shots and went 18%, but if you're looking for threes, that's what they do, and I don't think you can do really much more with that. I don't think there's much more that's going to happen with that batch of players. And that, guys, is all I'm going to do. I'm just going to have a look to see if anything interesting has actually gone on in that other game. The Clippers and Wolves. Has it started yet? Yeah, it has. Not much, but Jordan Miller, first man off the bench. He's an interesting deeper league guy, at least for the short term. So again, sorry that I'm not going to get to that final game recap here. If you are a Basketball Monster member, I will write it up over on the site. Then you can check it out over there. Don't forget to thumb up this video and subscribe and all of that stuff. Guys, we are done here. Don't forget, be good, be kind, help someone out, help yourself out. Look after yourselves. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.